prove someone wrong or like show that, I'm smart enough. So like I have to like really learn a lot in a short amount of time. What up, homies? Let's talk about this idea of enjoying the process. So I got up early as I usually do today in Taiwan, and I went to go get a coffee at the convenience store. There's a convenience store similar to 7-Eleven here called Family Mart, and I went to the teller and I asked her for a coffee, a hot coffee, 热美式. Yeah, let's just say I want a hot coffee, and then it made me think because the interaction was just so dead and cold, and it was almost like two zombies. Just, if you can imagine, like the zombie teller or the zombie customer service representative, just hating their job, just dreading to be there. And I can understand. I've done that job before. I used to work at McDonald's, and then I was just in the zombie zone too. Just done it a lot of times, probably 100, if not more times, just ordering a coffee every day. Usually, maybe not every day, but most days I'll order a coffee, and it's just so ingrained that I get into a pattern, this zombie-like pattern of just, yeah, medium coffee, thanks. And it made me think because when I first came to Taiwan, and I've made that sort of parody video about this, where when I first came to Taiwan, I was very, very nervous. Like whenever I had to speak to anyone, any native, when I first came to Taiwan, ordering a coffee was a huge challenge, and it would make me very nervous because first of all, I didn't know how to say what I wanted to order. Second of all, when you're in a new environment, you're just normally nervous. And then probably the most nerve-wracking thing is just you don't know what they're going to say back. And a lot of times they say something, and either they're speaking really, really fast, or they're sort of mumbling because they say it every day. And so they sort of assume that you guys have heard their spiel. You guys kind of know their restaurant or their cafe or their menu, and so they just speak very fast. And then they also naturally, of course, they assume that you're a native, and so they use lingo, they speak fast, and they sometimes mumble. And so it's also the perfect storm for like a bad situation for a language learner. And so for a long time it was pretty nerve-wracking, and trying to get over that hump took a little bit, trying to get familiar, and that's normal, that's natural. But after a while, it's like that nervousness turns into, as you get more familiar, it turns into like more apathy and more like I mentioned, just zombiness, like just robot-like behavior, just every day, normal. And it made me think about this idea of like enjoying the process, because I think a lot of us, at least me, when I first started learning, like I would encounter these nerve-wracking situations, and I would get like really just it would bother me, or it would like really shake up my day, or like I would be really nervous, and it would affect me. It wouldn't like in the sense that I wouldn't be able to really enjoy the situation and to really appreciate it. But when I look back now, it's like, man, those are the really exciting times. Those are the fun times, not the times like now when I'm like, it's just an everyday occurrence. It's like normal. Like that's great. Like that's great. But we don't think about that when we think about when we get fluent, and when we get, like, I'm not fluent, but when we get to a good enough level that it can become an everyday occurrence. It's like, yeah, just say it without feeling nervous at all now. But as a side effect of that, as a consequence of that, it's also not that exciting. It's not that thrilling. And when I think about those days when I first came to Taiwan, like yeah, they were nervous, but they were also really exciting. They were really thrilling. They were really, yeah, those are the times that I remember. Like when I go to the cafe and I don't know what I'm ordering and I'm stumbling over my words and I'm like, oh, sorry, my Chinese is not that good. Like those are the times when sometimes you meet some cool people, you have some interesting conversations. Those are the times when I take a risk, when I step a little bit outside my comfort zone. And so, what am I trying to say? I guess I think it's important to embrace those moments, to really enjoy them, because they can go away. Before you know it, you're going to get a lot better in the language if you really put your mind to it and you work hard. And so, I don't think there's a rush. That's my point, I guess. I don't think before I would always think like, oh man, I need to like get good really fast. And like, there's this rush, like I need to, prove someone wrong or like show that, I'm smart enough. So like, I have to like really learn a lot in a short amount of time. But I think in doing so a little bit, I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I could. I think coming to Taiwan, it was really enjoying. It was still one of the best experiences of my life, especially that first part. But I think, a little bit, I could have probably enjoyed it a little bit more. And I thought about this before too when I was first learning. Like, what's the point of rushing so much? And I think today was a perfect example. And not to say that today is like, like once you get good enough, like your language learning journey is going to be dead and boring and without interest at all. I think that you can still spice it up, and that's what I try to do. I still try to challenge myself to do certain things, but I think that's really the point, is to continue challenging yourself, to continue to make it interesting, because as you learn something, it's going to become more common occurrence, but then you can challenge yourself, do other interesting things, join a club, give a presentation in Chinese, which I did recently, which was super nerve-wracking. Doing a live stream in Chinese, starting a podcast in Chinese, doing some videos in Chinese, recording yourself in Chinese. Like there's so many things that you can do that continually challenge yourself, just to try to push yourself a little bit. It's a little bit kind of like a risk. It's kind of your ego might get hurt. But I think those are the moments when it's a little nerve-wracking. It's also a little exciting. I know I talked about this in a previous video, but just wanted to share, I guess, some further thoughts on it. I think there really is no like huge rush. There's no rush. This is when you climb a mountain, like, yeah, that's the best time. The climbing is like the funnest part. When you get to the top of the mountain, you get to rest. It feels good for a bit. You get to see the great views. It's nice. It's great pleasure. But I think eventually you're like, okay, where's the next mountain? And you're like, oh man, I should have enjoyed that climb even more. I should have enjoyed that climb more than I did, instead of like groaning and trying to rush through it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'll share two quotes that I found interesting that I was reading this morning. One is from Neil Gaiman, who's this famous author. Some of you guys may have heard of him. And he has this speech, I guess it's a commencement speech, and it's called Make Good Art, which I really like. And I just happened to stumble upon it today again. I think it's also a book. Anyways, he says he was talking about, like, I started trying to think what the best advice I'd been given over the years. And it came from Stephen King 20 years ago, at the height of the success of Sandman, which was one of his books. I was writing a comic that people loved and were taking seriously. King had liked Sandman and my novel with Terry Pratchett, Good Omens, and he saw the madness, the long signing lines, all that, and his advice was this is really great. You should enjoy it. And then he goes to say, and I didn't. Best advice I got that I ignored. Instead, I worried about it. I worried about the next deadline, the next idea, the next story. There wasn't a moment for the next 14 or 15 years that I wasn't writing something in my head or wondering about it. I didn't stop to look around and go, this is really fun. I wish I'd enjoyed it more. It's been an amazing ride, but there are parts of the ride I missed because I was too worried about things going wrong, about what came next, to enjoy the bit I was on. And so I found that really, really interesting. Sort of goes along the same lines as this. It's funny how so many things are sort of interconnected. And then there's this other quote that I really like from Robert M. Persig. He's the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I read a long time ago, and I found it really impactful when I read it. I need to read it again, but there was always this quote in the book that I really enjoyed, and it goes, mountains should be climbed with as little effort as possible and without desire. The reality of your own nature should determine the speed. If you become restless, speed up. If you become winded, slow down. You climb the mountain in an equilibrium between restlessness and exhaustion. Then, when you're no longer thinking ahead, each footstep isn't just a means to an end, but a unique event in itself. This leaf has jagged edges. This rock looks loose. From this place, the snow is less visible, even though closer. These are things you should notice anyways. To live only for some future goal is shallow. It's the sides of the mountain which sustain life, not the top. Here's where things grow. But of course, without the top, you can't have the sides. It's the top that defines the sides. And so we go. We have a long way. No hurry. Just one step after the next. So cool, right? Anyways, just wanted to share those two quotes. And what do you guys think? What do you guys think about enjoying the process, enjoying the journey? Do you guys struggle with this too? Do you guys focus a little bit too much on the goal? Do you guys, or are you guys good at, keeping things fun, keeping, the enjoyment going and really enjoying that process? Let me know in the comment section below. If you guys have any tips or tricks or comments, I would love to hear it. See you guys next time.